100 years old, as they measure at this point, either from 2 feet to 3 feet in diameter. The quote they gave me for working with those there's actually 5 trees, and then there's a couple extra that they felt should be done, was $380, and then the second step was another $220 in order to get after the bugs come out. And from my viewpoint, one of those trees, I'm almost sure we're going to lose, because it was eaten down almost all of it. There wasn't a single leaf on it at the end of December that hadn't been chewed pretty much all the way through. So to cut down a tree is substantially more, because you're talking about a big tree, and it's a tree that's very prominent on our property. So $380 is not it costs us a lot more to get that tree cut down, probably twice that. And if we had more than that, they would be substantially less than that. And that's what we're facing.
Are you for spraying?
Thank you.
You for
My name
spraying?
is,
I'm sure, yes.
thank you. My name is Anita Guzick, Guziec, 2775 Edgewood Lane. I have lived in the village for 36 years. So I have seen a lot of things come and go. This problem is a problem the last several years. When I called last year to report I had gypsy moths, I was told, oh, we're no longer taking individual addresses. They're going to spray the whole village. Don't bother calling back. My son called, he lives on Duffy, and he was told the same thing. So your map is very incomplete where the calls were made. Because 2 calls, my son and myself, it was a recent Riverwoods incident, is not on your list. So I'd like to go on record, 2775 Edgewood Lane, I have gypsy moths. And 2835 Duffy has gypsy moths.
Lloyd Matthews, 2900 Riverwoods Court. I suspect another aspect of the problem just raised, there are an awful lot of people in the village that wouldn't know a gypsy moth when they saw one, and hence there are a lot of areas there where there was probably infestation that we don't know anything about. Much broader than we suspect.
I'm sorry. Go.
I'm Diane Ashman with an S and a C. I live at 72 Treasure Lane, and I'd really like to urge the board to reconsider and vote in favor of spraying for gypsy moths. I am one of the village residents that has gypsy moths and had them in groves last year. I did spray and invest my own money to spray my property, but the equipment couldn't get around the house to the back end of my property. They could do around the house and around the front edge. The arborist said, you know, I couldn't even afford to do it, even if I wanted, you know, to take it upon myself to at least manage my whole area. My neighbors had not done anything last year. Some of them are moving this year and aren't going to make that kind of investment. It's not fun to be a resident coming home from a trip and seeing your entire house covered with black caterpillars. To be in an all-glass house and see blackness all over from inside and out is really disgusting. I don't think I'm going to do that.
Linda Dunn, 2920 Orange Grace Road. I have 2 questions. One, Chuck, what would it cost to cover the entire village to spray? 2, if we did, would that give you a benchmark to start for your 5-year planning?
Well, we didn't calculate the whole bill. We calculated basically the map that Rich had is the same general area that we've talked about. So it didn't include, you know, the entire village. So I could give you a firm number. You don't have to know how many acres in the village, do you?
4 square miles.
4.5, yeah. 4.5 square miles.
2560 square acres.
500.
There are
25,
4
60 acres.
square miles, 600, what is it, 640 to
640.
multiply?
Okay,
Yeah.
times $44.
Yes, my question, the question you and I discussed last week was the availability of the chemicals. If, for some reason, this board decides to do the 130 acres,
That's a good question, I'd have to
I
find
don't
it out
think we,
tomorrow.
I don't know, according to our conversation, if we get the
I'd have to find
chemicals.
it out tomorrow, what they're,
Whether there's the chemical available.
Yeah.
And whether it's really prudent to do the entire village, because there are some areas where.
That's right. My
We're just
suggestion would
throwing
be-
money away, basically, that's
Yeah,
$4,000 for every block that you do that doesn't need.
Yeah, I would, that's a good question, the whole village versus the areas that we identified. And basically that number that I had come up with for that area was 130,000, now reduce that by whatever percentage, instead of $50 an acre.
So if you took out the areas that had no complaints whatsoever or have no trees and left those out of it, and then
It's-
did
it's
it, but that would that give you a benchmark to start for your 5-year program too?
Well, I see, it's a moving target every year. I think the only way you could have a solid benchmark would be to say, you know, we're gonna figure out how much, you know, what did it take to spray a percentage, and to say to people, you know, let's say the optimum is if we could prevent the trees from defoliating for 4 straight years, just to pick it, you know, 3 or 4 is probably where you want to be. What would it cost to do that? We should go through the whole village once every 4 years. We could do that. We could put that number on. What that is, I don't know at this point, and then it's a question of, I will find out in the morning exactly what because the commitment the flying service made was based on, you know, the 400 acres. So we could find that out tomorrow morning. But that's really the only way you'd have a constant thing. And then the question would be, if you do that automatically on that rotation for the duration, then you know what that is. Now, what you know, we still want to monitor to see how effective that is, because at some point it might say, that's not really, you know, cost effective. So, but it's such a variable every year. Unless you did it like that, it wouldn't happen. You know, it wouldn't be consistent with, you know, some baseline wouldn't be consistent with.
Lasted 3 years last time.
Okay, there's person with the green, I can't see the face, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Janet McGowan, 716 Ringland. And I think looking at the Tree City USA sign, I think that we really ought to do the whole village, plus the fact that I had talked with the Forest Preserve, and they really are not doing
We
anything.
know that.
Is there any way that we can bring pressure to bear against them? Because we also have the emerald ash borer, which is rampantly moving northwards, from Wilmette to Winnetka and on up. And Lake Forest.
They're
And
north
so
of us
if you
already.
take out our ash trees and you take out our oak trees, there's not much left. And so I think that we really need to begin to, I would suggest spray the whole village to get a baseline level, but then also maybe cooperatively work with some of the other villages that are bordering the forest preserve to bring pressure to bear that instead of buying new territory, they take care of what they have so that it doesn't cause a problem for all the neighboring residents.
Sure.
Sherry Kaplan, 3284 Timberwood. I think this is a serious problem. Bill and I went to the Arborsmith presentation and were very impressed with it. However, after going to the presentation, I had no idea what a gypsy moth egg looked like. And Bill and I walked our property, and almost all of our neighbors in our particular area, just north of Deerfield Road, I did find a few egg cases on a tree, and I did what Eileen Gagerman said to do. I scraped them off and I put them in a cup and I nuked them in the microwave. And I was very proud of myself and felt that I had saved our neighborhood. But really, based on what we have in our neighborhood, it's very, very